Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1317B, and today's date is June 27th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Start the Countdown. The summer months are the elite's time to create havoc. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we know that Trump has been out there and he's been calling CNN fake news. And Project Veritas, well, it looks like they've done it again. This time, the organization led by James O'Keefe, well, he's infiltrated CNN. And they had this Project Veritas journalist covertly film a candid discussion with CNN health producer John Bonifield, where the very fake news network employee admitted that the whole Russia story against Trump is nothing more than a ratings grab by CNN's CEO Jeff Zucker. And Bonifield also admitted that he hasn't seen any evidence of Trump's committing any type of crime, of Russian collusion, or anything like that whatsoever. He said if we did have the evidence, well, we would know it and we would produce it. And we can see that most of the networks, I would say 99.9999% of them, they just grab onto these stories and they pass it from one corporate media outlet to the other. And people, since it shows up on USA Today, ABC News, NBC News, the New York Times, people assume that this is true then because it's showing up on all these different media outlets. But they need to remember that these media outlets are owned by 5 different companies. And they do this, and this was all part of their plan from the beginning. It was to allow this to happen so people believed the propaganda, because when they see it appearing on many, they say, okay, on 1, I kind of believe it. On 2, I really do believe it. On 3, well, that's it for me. It has to be true because it's on all of the major networks. Now, CNN, they tried to put out that Russian fake story. They had the Pulitzer Prize winner Thomas Frank. They created it. They really had no proof whatsoever, and it looks like everything has been falling apart because it looks like 3 CNN journalists, including the Pulitzer Prize winner Thomas Frank, well, they resigned. So who are they? Well, Frank, the reporter on the story, Eric Lichtblau, a recent CNN addition from the New York Times who edited the piece, and Lex Harris, the executive editor of CNN Investigates. Now there's an email going around CNN where CNN is imposing strict new publishing restrictions for online articles involving Russia. And they're saying that no one is allowed to publish any content involving Russia without prior approval. And this applies to social media, video, editorial, money stream. There are no exceptions whatsoever because they're continually getting caught in fake news. And this proves that the corporate media is dealing in fake news. They're not dealing in facts. They're not doing any type of investigative reporting. And we can see that just by doing a little investigation by Project Veritas, they've just proven everything that has been said about the corporate media. Now, the Senate was trying to push a Russian sanctions bill. And right now, Trump, well, he's going to disregard the recent Senate bill imposing new sanctions on Russia because it violated the constitutional requirement that revenue legislation originate in the House of Representatives. So the bill violated the origination clause of the U.S. Constitution, which requires that any bill raising revenue originates in the House. So right now, they're rejecting the Russian sanction bill. Right now, there's no new bill at this time, which doesn't mean there's not going to be one. At this time, they weren't prepared for this because normally they'd be like, okay, this is approved by Obama, let's move on. Now it was shot down. So it's very interesting. The Senate doesn't know the rules. They don't understand what's constitutional and what's not constitutional. Well, they've been breaking the law. They've been breaking the rules for so long, they forgot how the whole thing works. Now, Russia is out there and they oppose unilateral sanctions on North Korea. They said, we are against the broad interpretation of the UN sanctions regime and, moreover, against the introduction of unilateral restrictions by individual states aimed in essence at the economic chokehold of North Korea. This is coming from the Deputy Foreign Minister, saying that this is not going to help the situation with North Korea. It's going to make the situation a lot worse, and the people are going to pay the price. And we see right now that the whole point of this is to put pressure on North Korea, to make them fold, to make them pay for not doing what the deep state wants. This is the whole point of sanctions. And the deep state, the central bank, they've been using sanctions for many years. This is why the dollar, which is the reserve currency, this gives them the power around the world to fund the covert operations. It allows them to control countries and to choke countries when they don't do what they want. And Russia is saying this situation in North Korea is not going to be helped by placing sanctions on North Korea. And we can see throughout time, sanctions do absolutely nothing except hurt the people in the country. It doesn't make the governments in these countries fold. Actually, countries have lasted a very long time without using the dollar. They resort to other means to survive. Iran has been doing it, Cuba's been doing it, and many other countries. Now, the U.S. has lumped China in with North Korea, Sudan, Syria for human trafficking. And the Trafficking in Persons Report is an annual assessment of international efforts to address human trafficking, a form of modern-day slavery. And in this new report, the State Department downgraded China's status, moving it from the watch list to the lowest tier, which could expose China to certain penalties. China is joined by Iran, North Korea, Russia, Sudan, Syria, and a number of other countries where human trafficking continues to be a serious problem. And again, the United States also has this problem, but of course this is covered up and nobody wants to admit to it. The UK has this problem, and this is basically done with many different networks that are associated with all these countries where they are trafficking humans. And this has been going on for a very long time. And don't be fooled. The United States is part of this network. And we can see that the Trump administration, we can see Jeff Sessions, they are trying to crack down on this. Now, have we seen anything come out of this yet? Not as of yet, but we'll have to wait to see where they go with this. Now, Trump is supposed to meet with Putin in Germany for a multinational summit next month, but the idea of this, well, it's basically exposing deep divisions within the administration on the best way to approach Moscow in the midst of an ongoing investigation into Russian meddling. And we can see right now that many administration officials believe the U.S. needs to maintain its distance from Russia at such a sensitive time. But I think Trump should go ahead and meet with Putin to show the world and people in the United States that there is no Russian collusion. There is no Russian meddling in the elections. There's nothing here to fear, and I believe that he should meet with Putin to show the world that we can get along. Now, of course, the deep state, the corporate media, they will play this up. They will use this against Trump. They'll do whatever they possibly can to spin this in a way that makes it look like he's doing something illegal when, again, he is not. Now, Sergei Lavrov is out there, and he is accusing the U.S. coalition of basically not hitting al-Nusra Front. Now, we know the al-Nusra Front is part of the Moderate Rebels. The Moderate Rebels is basically a terrorist group made up of Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra Front, the Islamic State, al-Sham, and they just basically move people from place to place. Right now, al-Nusra, well, this is their terrorist group that they use. These are paid mercenaries, and they never bomb these individuals. Now, the reason for this is because they use them. This is the army of the deep state. It has been for a very long time, and the Russians realize that the United States government, the deep state, they don't bomb their paid mercenaries. Now, the foreign minister went on to say that new evidence has emerged in the past few days indicating that the U.S.-led international forces continue to take the heat off the former al-Qaeda offshoot in Syria. And a lot of countries are starting to realize that the United States, the deep state, they've been supporting all these terrorist groups. And we need to remember the Wall Street Journal, they came out with this article that shows that Israel, it shows that the Middle Eastern countries, the U.S. coalition, they've all been supporting these terrorist groups. Now, we're seeing this huge, massive cyber attack, and it's spreading across Europe. It's almost like WannaCry. And they're using the NSA software, which is behind this ransomware attack. Now, Merck is out there. They've confirmed that they have been affected by the cyber attack. We have Russia. The Russia Senbank says as a result of the attacks, there have been isolated cases where its systems were infected. Ukraine came out and just completely blamed this on Russia. Their central bank, power plants, airports, they're saying it's all being hit and it's all because of Russia. Again, they have no proof whatsoever. The Swiss government agency says there are indications that Piazza ransomware virus is circulating again. And we can see right now, this is all being done showing that, listen, we can hit infrastructure, we can hit anything that we want, and we can bring systems down. And we need to remember that the NSA, well, they've created holes in all of these systems. Criminals have access. Once they find the holes in the system, well, they can use them. The NSA, the CIA, the FBI, well, they have the ability to bring systems down because all our systems are infected with their software. And we can see from what is happening around the world, there is a major, major problem. And to set up cyber bombs within Russia, it's really not that difficult because most of the equipment that is being shipped off and being used by most of the countries, they already have it implanted. And this is why China and Russia were looking at this saying, you know something, we don't want to use the Microsoft, we don't want to use American computer systems, we want to create them on our own because they're starting to realize that they can bring down their systems anytime they want. Now, we're getting information where there was this anonymous, non-governmental, anonymous source with close ties to the White House that said the administration had received intelligence that the Syrians were mixing precursor chemicals for a possible sarin gas attack in either the south of the country, where government troops and their proxies have faced recent setbacks. Now, let's think about this for a second. There was, first of all, an anonymous source. It came out of the White House, a person that was very close to the administration, close ties to the White House. And this information was leaked. And the corporate media is running with this. And right now, the White House, Sean Spicer was out there saying, well, if this is true, well, Assad's going to have to pay the price for this. And Nikki Haley was out there, and she was jumping on the bandwagon, just like all these individuals do, because they're part of the deep state, saying that any further attacks done to the people of Syria will be blamed on Assad, not the Syrian government, but specifically Assad, but also on Russia, Iran, who support him killing his own people. All right, let's break this down for a second. First of all, why would Assad at this point start killing his own people? Does it make any sense? Let me see. I'm liberating, clearing villages. People are applauding him. Russia is in there. Iran is in there at the request of the Syrian government. They're making huge strides in the fight against terrorism within the country, and he's going to turn around and gas his own people. It doesn't even make sense. And again, we know that all these chemical attacks, they didn't come from Assad. They came from the terrorist groups. Actually, the last one was, as we know, completely fake, phony, and false. There was an MIT professor. There was this new article by Seymour Hersh, which talks about how this was completely fake. These are false flag hoaxes, so the deep state can move in and do something else in the country. And this is what they've been using for a very long time. Now, what's very surprising about this one is that there was a leak letting everyone know that they're planning this. Now, normally false flags, they don't leak this. All of a sudden, it happens. They might say, hey, if someone crosses a red line, we'll react. Now, Trump doesn't speak in red line. He doesn't speak in absolutes. But this was leaked to the press on purpose. Now, was this a message to Russia, to Syria, saying, listen, we have intelligence. We know they're planning a false flag, and they leaked it out to warn them. Think about this for a second. Because if they're going to create this false flag, why would they let it out ahead of time? It makes no sense. Because already Russia's saying, no, this is not happening. Syria's saying, no, this is not happening. We're not preparing anything. Look around. You can see. It makes no sense. Think about what Putin did right after the chemical attack in Syria, where everyone was saying it was a complete false flag. It never really happened. Putin, back at that time, said they're planning on another chemical attack. Now, he did this on purpose to say that the deep state is planning to do something. Here we have this leak saying that the deep state is planning to do something. Now, we need to remember that during the summer months, especially leading into August, this is when the elite like to play. And if we look at the patterns going back in time, we can see the sarin gas attack of 2013. Guess when it happened? In August. When we go back in time and we look at the Islamic State, when did they come out from nowhere? The end of July into August. Why August? This is when Congress goes on break. They don't come back until after Labor Day. The United States started bombing inside of Syria around the August time frame. It's always around this time frame, and it looks like they might have been preparing to do this again during this period of time, preparing everything, and they use the white helmets, they get everything set up, they make sure everything is done for the false flag, and this might be a warning to Syria, Russia, Iran, letting them know, letting this leak out, because they found the intelligence, to get prepared and get ready to show that this really didn't happen. Now, the UK is out there. British Defense Secretary says the UK will support the US if it retaliates against Syria for any use of chemical weapons. It's funny how when the terrorist groups use the chemical weapons, all these countries just completely stay silent. Again, we know why, because that's their paid mercenary army. And we see that the Russian senator, the first deputy chairman of the Federation Council Committee on Defense and Security, Franz Klinchenvich, he's out there saying the reason for this is because the deep state, they're planning a new U.S. attack. And they're going to pass it off as a chemical attack. Yes, this is exactly what they're going to do. This is why they've been building up in military bases in the Kurd region. This is why they're bringing in the HIMARS missile system. This is why they've been bringing troops in there, because what they're getting ready to do is they're getting ready to split off Syria, and they need some type of an event. Plus, Russia, Syria, Iran, they are wiping out the terrorist groups. They're racing against time right now. Now, Russia, the Russian Ministry of Defense, announced on June 21st that they're going to establish a new heavy transport branch to deploy entire armored and mechanized divisions directly to battle locations over distances of 1,000 kilometers within 24 hours, using interchangeable crews. New regiments, battalions, and independent companies are being formed, equipped with multi-axle heavy-wheel transports, which require no preparation to become operational. Now, they're doing this at the same exact time. So, when we look at this, we can see that this entire warning, well, it came out at the same exact time that Seymour Hersh says the chemical attack never really happened. Now, again, we know that these are false flags. We know the deep state uses them. The thing is, what is Trump going to do? Yes, I know he was out there saying that Assad is going... Actually, he didn't specifically say this. We know that Nikki Haley was out there, Sean Spicer was out there. Other individuals were out there saying that, yes, the Syrian government, Assad, they're going to pay for this. Well, he said this about Kim Jong-un, and we never attacked. We never did anything there. Now, to me, this looks like this is a complete setup, because there's no way the deep state is going to leak this information and let everyone know what the false flag is going to be. This looks like this was done on purpose to stop the false flag. And we see right now that the Pentagon, well, it looks like they weren't really informed. It looks like this was kept kind of like a secret, where they got the intelligence information and they didn't want to let too many agencies know about what they knew about it until they leaked the information. So we can see right now that we're going to have to watch this very carefully, because it's already out in the open that there's a false flag coming. Russia knows about it. Syria knows about it. Syria's already denying that this is even happening. So once again, this could have completely stopped this false flag. Now, does this mean they're not going to come up with something else? No, it means they're going to try once again. They might even go through with the false flag to see if it gets any type of traction. But they've been trying to use this type of story for a very long time, and they can't get anything out of it. I mean, they show pictures, and everyone completely debunks everything they throw out there, because many people know that this is completely fake, phony, and false. And they keep trying the same thing over and over and over, because you know why? They have nothing else. And now they're getting caught and they're getting backed into a corner. So what do they do at this point? And something that we're looking at is that we are heading into the summer months. The countdown has started. We're on our way to the beginning of August, and they usually prep the month of July to produce something in August. So this right here looks like they might have put the kibosh on this one, but they're going to regroup, the deep state, and they're going to come up with something else. And we're going to see that this summer is really going to heat up. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.